Well, I thought we'd have a look at the Francis Barnett frame today, because it's the little thing sat there, but that's not its correct frame. It's one someone's made up for her. Now, there's nothing wrong with reframing things. People reframe Land Rovers and bits all the time and no one bats an eyelid. But unfortunately, this one isn't the best. It's straight enough, it works. It's just not been made to the best standard. When we look at like the welding in there and sort of here hidden behind the horn, this bend here, it's meant to be two bends. It's meant to be slightly shallower bend here and then another bend sort of behind this silencer. And of course it's just been done with one tight bend, so of course that'll be a bit longer, that top tube, and then with the one tight bend which has almost kinked the pipe, kinked the tube. I mean, it's sound, it does its job, it's strong enough, it's definitely been tested. I think it, if I remember right, yeah, I think it has done a couple of trials on that frame. So it's strong enough, it just isn't pretty. But up there we have the original frame for it. Unfortunately, this is all kinds of bent. Now, there's a lot of bolts and bits I've got sat in places at the minute, just because I'm trying to eye up and see where exactly all the bends are. Now, it's got a bit of a dodgy repair here, and this top tube, it's like a sodding banana. It's bent all over the place. Bottom tube has been very badly welded, so these tubes are just pressed into the headstock. But when we sort of look round here, you'll not see it in this light, but this has snapped at some point and been welded back together, and it's not quite in line, which, judging by the state of the rest of it, it's really not going to be. I don't know how well you can see, but that thing is just all kinds of bent. Now, the important bits, this is the swinging arm pivot, and when you're looking at it from behind here, this wants to be at 90 degrees tail headstock sat, and it just isn't. Now, I've had to put bolts in rather than go off this casting, because the hole doesn't go straight through the casting, so I'm presuming that's not drilled in the factory until after it's been fitted. Yeah. So yeah, at the moment I'm doing a lot of looking at it, trying to figure out what's bent where, because this is bent somewhere around here, sort of bent over that way, then it sort of bends back in this way up here a little bit, and it's a bit up and down. So I'm just deciding whereabouts I'm going to start cutting it. I'm taking a few basic measurements. So yeah. I might just start cutting in a minute, because you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? Yes. Right. I'll see about attacking it, and I'll bring you back when I've made a mess. Ta-da. You don't need to say ta-da there. Yeah. I'll just bring you back when I've made a mess of everything. Right. Onward. Well, there we go. That was definitely under tension, wasn't it? As soon as we cut it, well, as soon as I got somewhere near, just twang, and yeah. Well, this could be interesting. She's got a lot of bent bits and not a lot of straight ones. Okay, we'll carry on. Onward. Yeah, this is a bit worrying. Flipping heck, I'm glad I didn't try and ride it with this frame. Of course, I just showed you cut that bit, and the plan was heat this section up with the blowtorch, because the frames are only pressed together, and pull it out. So what I did was I ground through this little section of weld here, just cut it along the seam, and there's a bit about half the size at the bottom, and that happened. that is all that was holding it. That little bit of terrible weld there, and this little terrible bit of weld here. That's worrying. And it's also a pain in the arse, because trying to get that bit of tube out of there now is going to be a little bit awkward. Oh well. Headstock's off. We'll carry on. Oh, we've been having fun with this bugger. Anyway, top tube's out. Bottom one's still in wherever it's snapped off. I'm going to worry about that later because I have found a crack. Where are we looking? See those two holes drilled there? That's either end of the crack. So, yeah, well, I'm hoping that's either end. If it's not, we're knackered. So yeah, I've drilled it out, I've filed it back, and I'm going to see if I can get that welded up. My welder certainly ain't going to do a nice job of that, so I'm going to borrow one. Problem is with it being cast. Get mixed results with cast. Sometimes I've welded cast and it's been quite successful, other times it's just been terrible and yeah, not worked at all. We can but try though. So yeah, I'll have a go, see what happens. Wish me luck. Okay, well, that's that welded up. Had a bit of a stroke of luck with that. It's cast steel rather than cast iron, so it actually welds quite nice. Can't really see it too well there, but by the time I've dressed that up in bits, you'll not even know it's been done. Right, now for the interesting bit. I've got to try and get that snapped off bit of tube out of there. Yeah, right here. Let's see how far we get. Could be interesting. We've just about managed to save the headstock. I've had to cut a little bit more off it than I wanted to, but it should all weld back up. And now we're trying to square the diamond up before we put the new bits of steel in. It's got all kinds of twists in it. I've just about taken one or two of them out, but this tube here, it's got a bend somewhere around here and it's twisted sort of towards the camera a little bit. If we line up there, you can just see how far out of line that is. Oh, yeah, it didn't half spring when we took it off. Still, we'll keep going. We should get there at some point. Yeah, so we'll get it somewhere near straight. Then we'll get it bolted down to something nice, flat and strong, you know, a bit of a jig sort of setup. And see about putting some new bits of steel in. It's going to be a pain in the arse, this is. Still, you don't do things, things don't get done, do they? Right, we'll carry on. Okay, so there she is, all sort of jigged up. We've got it about as straight as we can. There was a lot of the bend in this piece, a little bit up here, but we got that, and then we've made some, well, we're putting some new steel in there. There's the headstock. This is just a bit of tube, 1.25 inches, just because it's a nice snug fit in the headstock. That's clamped down. If I was doing these regular, I'd make a jig up, but I'm hoping that I only have to do this the once. So we'll fasten it to this great big lump of steel with some G-clamps and a woodwork vise. And we'll get it tacked together and see what happens. Right, yeah. Right, yeah. Well, my old MIG, she's a bit tired. Doesn't always do what it's meant to do. But yeah, I thought I'll tack there. I'll tack there, I'll put one there, and I came to that one and I thought, that's a bit blobby and horrid, what's going on? And it turns out that was the very last of my wire. So that's as far as we're getting with this one tonight. I don't want to have to buy another reel of wire for this thing. Yeah, the MIG's all but knackered. I'm reluctant to spend any money on bits I know I can take the spool of wire out and put it in whatever I get next, but yeah. I might take this frame for a drive tomorrow and just pop to see someone who's got a decent, well, I'd say decent, a working welder that'll let me use it. So yeah, hopefully it'll be somewhere now welded up and presentable next time you see it. Fingers crossed. Okay, well, we've got it straightened out. Still not the prettiest. Still a bit of cleaning up and whatnot to do. But it's, yeah, she's near enough. I've took a set of yokes in. And just so I can put some forks in, just help me eye things up, make sure everything's as near as it needs to be. But yeah. Anyway, there it is. It was in a right mess. Still not brilliant now. It previously snapped off just at the headstock, and it had the tube simply pushed back in and welded in place. And it was all kinds of twisted all over the place. I've still got a lot of dressing up and bits to do on the welds and whatnot. All this headstock casting, luckily they're a cast steel, not a cast iron. All this was cracked, so I've got that somewhere near where it should be now. Replace this top tube altogether, replace the section down here, and then just when I got it finished, I got all paranoid that it might not be strong enough and welded some great big oofing collars around where the joins were, even though I'd sleeved the inside as well, so you know that's just totally overkill and unnecessary, I think. But you know, I don't plan on being gentle on the thing, so it's probably better to be safe and sorry. And let's face it, it's my bike, it's not a customer's one, so it doesn't have to look pretty. It has to be strong and it has to work. Yes. Now, I think the headstock's fine now, but the swinging arm pivot might not be perfectly true yet. It's very hard to get a measurement on it because the casting isn't true to the hole through the centre. I don't know if you can see it's almost central. It's sort of up here somewhere, just off centre, and then it's the opposite on the other side. So when I made a little jig for it and clamped it down, it was, yeah, well, there was nothing to measure off because this was broken and bent. This tube was like a sodding banana. There was a big twist in it here. So yeah, there was just no measurements to go off. So I did the best I could. Pretty sure the headstock's where it's meant to be now. I've put it on tapered bearings. Managed to add these yokes kicking about, and I've just borrowed a set of forks off a mate of mine, just to yeah, just to sort of piece it up together and see how far off straight we are. So the plan is, we're going to take that thing apart, because I want to see if this subframe will fit on that frame, and see about putting a swinging arm in and bits so we can see how far out of whack that is. Yes, I'm hoping it's somewhere near, because otherwise it's going to be a pain in the backside trying to twist that. But you know, we can do it. So, right, I'll get cracking. Well, we're getting there. Now, it's not too far away. It's in the same ballpark at least. These legs aren't long enough, which I don't mind because that welding is atrocious and I wanted to cut it off anyway. So I'll have to make these again, or at least extend them. But the swinging arm pivot, when you pop that in, lines up with the front mount, and within a nats, oh, nearly knocked it all over. Is that going to stay there? It is, yeah. And within a nats, lines up with them as well. So we're not a million miles away at that. Like I said, we're in the right ballpark. Right. I think we'll pop the swinging arm in and see how far out of line that is. Okay, so we've got the swinging arm in, and I've got my poor man straight edges on. Just a couple of scrap bits of wood. I have checked down on, they are about as straight as you can get for old lengths of wood. And that is as straight as anything needs to be for a trials bike. over the 52 and a bit inches from the centre of that spindle to the centre of the ones on the forks. We are about a quarter of an inch out, maybe a little bit less, but that could quite simply be I've not got the chain adjusters perfect, because they're not perfect. They're sort of somewhere near. So yeah, I don't think we did too bad with that, considering I measured most of it with my squintometers. Yeah, don't quite know where to go next on that one. I've got to get some tube ordered up, because this is 7/8 tube that's been used on this particular one, and I don't have any 7/8 tube left or anything made out of 7/8 tube that I'm willing to cut up. So yeah, I think we're going to class it as a victory for now. Once we get the front wheel and bits in, decide what forks are going in it and whatnot, we'll have another check of the wheel alignment, because if it is out, it's only sort of, I don't know, half a degree or something. We can soon tweak that back into it, because there was a hell of a twist on the frame down here. Like I said, I managed to get most of it out, but yeah, I'm quite sure once we've got some wheels and bits in and we know where we are exactly, I'll be able to tweak that out of it. Well, like I said, it could just be the chain adjusters. We'll find out. So yeah, there she is. Back on an original frame. I think we'll call that quits for now. I think that's enough of this nonsense for one day. I'll see about getting some tube ordered up. See if I can decide which credit cards are going to sponsor it. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, right. Thank you for watching. Ta-da.